Hello and welcome to the Women Changing the World podcast. I'm your host, Olivia D'Souza, and today I'm chatting with Mel James. Hello, Mel.
Hello, Olivia. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Very well.
Yeah, great to see you. We had a few technical issues last time, so it's great we're finally together.
Finally, I have to admit, tech's not my strong point, but that's okay. It's a learning journey. So,
So, congratulations on being an author now on
thank
the
you.
Women Changing the World book, an amazing book. Have you
Thank
got
you
your
so much.
copy?
It's very exciting.
Have you got your copy yet?
Oh, yeah, I did. I got it in the mail and I couldn't help but start taking selfies of myself reading it. And then started reading it and I was like, oh, hang on, I've got to do the rest of my job.
All right. So, can you tell me a bit about yourself? Who is Mel?
Sure. So I am a social worker. I wear multiple different hats, I suppose. I'm a mum of three beautiful little children. I started out doing social work. Probably didn't really know what social work was when I started. And baptism of fire, really, in the child protection world. And realized early on I really wanted to work with children, young people, and vulnerable communities, and trying to sort of walk alongside of them and provide support and empowerment to help address whatever problems were going on for them. And I suppose working here and abroad, I didn't really think child protection was where I was going to stay, but or even start, but I fell into it and I've loved it and stayed in it ever since 20 odd years now. About 12 years ago, I saw a gap in, I was a manager of an out-of-home care service provider in Queensland, and I saw a gap in the quality of the fostering assessments that we were doing, and I saw the long-term effect was that ultimately we were either placing foster children in homes that weren't suitable for them, that people shouldn't have become foster carers in the first place, or perhaps they should be foster carers, but there was really clear matching requirements that were going to be best for them. They would be better suited as respite carers but had full-time placements, or were better with little people but had 4 teenagers, or vice versa. And so we saw lots of places breaking down, which of course is a horrific outcome for children, but also really difficult for carers because it's lost connections for them and they do a lot of work. I mean, foster carers are incredible, amazing people, selfless, giving, patient humans, and to have placements end is a really devastating experience for the most part for them, but it's obviously a horrific experience for children because we break attachments and we cause more trauma. So I suppose I saw a gap and I thought that I wanted to write fostering assessments because I felt I could do a better job. Kind of threw down the gauntlet to myself and thought I could do it better and cheaper, is what I said at the time. So I started doing assessments, and it was just me being an individual sole trader. I had no desire at the time to own a company or anything like what I've got now. Catapult forward 12 years, and now I have 60 staff doing a whole range of amazing things around the country. I have staff in 4 states, and we fly in, fly out in all other states and territories, including Norfolk Island this year, which was very exciting. Call ourselves international, not quite, but we do. And we do basically child protection consultancy training and assessment now, so a whole range of different weird and wonderful things. And this last year, I started a second company, which is also built from finding gaps in the market and recognizing that foster carers really needed another and additional source of independent advice before they become carers and into what's a very messy, difficult system to navigate. So a source of information that was completely independent, non-biased, and could help them determine from a customer service experience what was best for them and what agency might be best for them, because at the moment that's probably not in a focus for the system. So those are my 2 companies. Social Care Solutions is the first one, and the Tribe Project, which I've founded with Mason Andrews, who's a brilliant person and professional who has a lived experience of being a child in care. So I get to work with him, and he has great insights around what life was like as a child in care, and he brings that to our business as well.
Wow. Such an interesting area and such an important area. It's one that's quite close to my heart. So there's 2 businesses. One is to help make sure that kids are matched better. Did I understand that right?
Yeah. Oh, well, Social Care Solutions is really about building capacity for the sector. So building better programs, designing better training, delivering amazing training, and doing, of course, complex foster care assessments, parenting capacity assessments, those sorts of things. So I call it my child protection consultancy. And the other one is around It's actually a digital platform. And I say that with a smile because we had technical problems earlier. So when I say I people look at me a little bit like, really?
No.
On most days. So it's not an ideal fit. But Mason is the tech genius. So I feel that's okay. I bring the practice side. And that tribe is very much about helping people who want to become foster carers or who have never even thought about becoming foster carers learn more about it and be nurtured and supported to make that choice when they're ready.
Wonderful. Okay, so where in the journey would people come across you? How do they find you?
Probably from the tribe side of things, they would go to either our Facebook page, our Insta, or see one of our ads, etc., and link in through the tribe project that way to learn more about fostering. But for social care solutions, the general public probably wouldn't see us other than going online and doing our training. So we have training masterclasses, which are for foster carers, parents, guardians, to just learn more about how to understand behavioral management strategies, how to manage your own stress, and especially if you've got trauma in your own childhood, how to understand when you're being triggered by the kids in your care, whether it's your own children or somebody else's children. So we have that as a source of options for the general public. But Social Care Solutions' main primary clients are not-for-profit organisations, the fostering agencies and the state governments throughout the country.
So there'd be a lot of education that you do then from some of the things that you're saying then, and just for someone I know who has a social worker background and now that's what she does is for child protection is train parents. So I imagine that there's a lot of strategies that you have to teach to.
Look, the education part is critical. I think when I started out doing assessments for Social Care Solutions, and I loved it. I love the privilege and the honour of going into someone's home and them opening up and telling you their deepest or darkest sometimes, some of their trauma histories that they haven't thought about since they were younger, unpacking those and having an understanding of when they might be triggered and how they might be triggered and what they could do to manage those experiences when they become a foster carer. That's such a privileged position. It's an amazing honour to be a foster care assessor. It really is. I loved doing that work. But when I look at that now and I think that's changing one family's experience or changing one child's life at a time, which is very powerful. But when you train a group of assessors, if I train a team, we have a beautiful assessment writing workshop that we run across the country and we do it in person and online. And when you have 30 people in the room who are writing potentially 30 assessments each a year, you can think about how much impact and capacity you have when you deliver that training. Because I think what's really interesting, there's no regulation in this, in that anyone can be a foster care assessor. If you go and do a course or if you do some read up on how to do them or whatever, there's no actual set sort of accreditation that you need. Some of the states use a particular type of form, so you have to be accredited in using that form, but it's not necessarily how to do an actual assessment. So it's a very skilled, very niche market. It's not for everybody. You have to be very, very good at building rapport very quickly and helping people have difficult conversations, being able to unpack things with people that are quite deep and really getting below the surface and not being so superficial in your interviewing. You need to be able to do that, but you then also need to have to write it up and write it really, really well. So I think the education part, being able to train people in how to do that, and that's a big part of what my company does. That's something that we have great passion for. We love it. And I think we can proudly say we've been there, done that, got the T-shirt. We've all done those assessments. My staff have been there in the trenches, in the front line, have had complex needs young people threatening to, slash our tyres or to throw boiling hot water on us. We've been there and done that, so we can actually talk to how to train someone in how to manage that or whether they'll be able to manage that. So, the education part is a critical part of what we do.
How do you end up finding these families that need help? Because if a child needs to be taken away into foster care, it's got to be pretty bad. What kind of problems are we seeing? Sexual abuse, drugs? What are we seeing?
Oh, the whole gamut. So I'm very lucky that I'm not frontline anymore. So in most states and territories, the role of investigating child abuse and allegations of harm is actually sitting with the state. So the state agencies like child safety officers do that very difficult work. I suppose when we're working with families, some of the challenges that we see on our side, so often those children are already in care when we're working with families potentially, or they're trying to gain those children back. So we're working with them around supporting them to keep their children or to have reunification or restoration of their children back into their care. Or we're working with foster carers around how to support children who have gone through that already and are in their care on child protection orders. Some of the issues you're seeing are obviously drug use. It's a big one. Some domestic and family violence is really, really significant as well. So we're dealing with lots of highly traumatized children who've experienced a lot of aggression, intimidation, coercion, physical, sexual abuse, etc., emotional harm and neglect. So you see the whole gamut of children who withdraw and are extremely compliant and look angelic and sweet and look like they've got no challenges because they're very compliant, but really they've got lots of anxiety and other emotional challenges that we have to be really mindful of. The whole range to then children who are very outwardly expressing their trauma, so aggression and antisocial behaviours and things like that. But for the most part, you've just got children that need safety, and trying to train people in how to give that to a child, especially when, parenting is something that we all assume we can do. We were parented, so therefore we can all just do it, right? You don't have to do a course to become a parent. You just become a parent. And I think being mindful of how we parent and where our parenting strategies come from. They come from a whole range of different, our own experiences, cultural norms, the society around us. Like I've definitely had people looking at me funny when I'm walking down the aisle of the grocery store. My kids are screaming and chucking a tantrum. And I'm kind of like, okay, all right. Well, and you have someone look at you and go, oh, my day, I would have smacked my kids if they're that, you go, oh, well, that's your call, but I'm not going to do that. So I think, the whole range of issues that bring children into the contact with the child protection system, there's a whole range, and it can result in you can have children in the same household that experience trauma that's very similar, but present very, very differently. So foster carers have an incredibly difficult job, as do any workers in the child protection system, to be able to support children individually where they're at in that particular moment, because all kids are unique.
If you're in a family, would parents, if they're in an abusive relationship, I'd imagine one of the parents might call you, or are they scared to call you? They're scared of getting their kids taken away?
They don't call us directly because we're not the frontline practitioners, but some families would be fearful of reaching out to the child protection services in their state. The great thing is that there's a whole range of different services available now in the not-for-profit space. So, for example, in Queensland, we do have service providers who are running the Family and Child Connect, and that's a space where they can ring in and get support and not feel judged and not feel that they're going to have their children taken away. But ultimately, if children are at extreme risk of harm and a judge approves an order, then they can be removed. But I think, you all hear the negative stories in child protection. Everyone hears the horrible stories and the worst case scenarios. But for the most part, most parents work their butts off to try and get their children back in their care. And, we see mums and dads, but a lot of mums leave abusive relationships and live in shelters and work with services just to be able to protect children. So for the most part, even though it doesn't make it to the media, most parents work really, really hard to try and get their children returned to their care.
Well, that's good. That's poor traumatized families. So what challenges have you found in trying to set this up and be able to help all these kids?
Great question. I think, I do work in an archaic system. It's the child protection system has been around for a very long time, and it's quite set in its ways, and it's very difficult to be innovative sometimes. Funding models are very restrictive. It's often very short-term thinking, put in a service through crisis, put in a funding package because of crisis at the moment. It's not often thinking ahead and being willing to be creative and do things differently. But I'd like to think that we are seeing change in the sector, that we do have people willing to, put the necks out and actually be creative and think long-term and not just go, well, I need to fix this right now. Yes, I need to fix this now, but I actually need to think 10 years in the time, what might this service provision look like? So I suppose that's one thing. It's about, we are kind of fighting against a system that has been doing things a certain way for a very long time. So then when you come in as a full purpose service provider like myself in Social Care Solutions and in Tribe, and we want to do something different, sometimes there's going to be people that go, oh, no, we don't do it that way. And we say, well, that way hasn't been working, and we are having more children enter the system. We are having less foster carers stay in the system. So we might need to do things differently.
Does that stem from the fact that you would do things differently because we have so much more awareness? I mean, it's still slow changing, but I think in my realms anyway, I see a lot of conscious parenting, gentle parenting, and it's not just you still have boundaries, but there's a smarter way of doing things. Is that part of what you're bringing?
Oh, I'd like to
The
think
change?
so. I'd like the whole range of we have great information about being trauma informed. We now have, we have MRIs that can tell us what happened to our brains when we've got trauma and abuse. We didn't have that in the 80s, didn't happen in the 60s. We've had massive change in that space, and it's about opening our eyes up to understanding what is best for children and moving forward. Most people would say they were smacked when they were children, and most of us now know 60 years worth of research tells us it's not a good idea for lots of different reasons. So you are kind of going against the grain in changing parenting styles, but also in even just the use of technology in what we do. So not necessarily in parenting, but using technology, doing this. We do home visits online now, and obviously COVID has forced us to be more creative and innovative in that space as well. But training happens online now. We have a lot of assessment resources that we use online. We'll send our applicants links and passwords, and they jump on, and they can do it at 9:00 at night in their pajamas, in their bed, and jump on a laptop and do a bit of work to help us understand them better about what type of foster placements that might work for them or what might not. So it's really quite powerful. I think embracing some of the new ways of working and being a little bit disruptive and changing the status quo, because our families are changing. We didn't have the range of challenges I think that we had in the past, or even if we did, we didn't know about them. So we have a lot more information now, and that's something that we should embrace.
So, what changes have you seen from what you do? Do you have some stories of where things have improved? What's that been like for you?
Oh, I'd like to think so, definitely. Like one of the services we work with up here in Queensland for my social care solutions company, they are very innovative. They're very willing to put their money where their mouth is. They have funded a practice improvement project with us. So we basically developed a whole range of modules, 6 training modules, which is about 11 days worth of training. And they've funded that for every single one of their team members. It's hundreds and hundreds of people throughout the state. And it's basically been developed by their staff, with our staff, run by practitioners, for practitioners, reviewed by practitioners, which is amazing. So it's, instead of going, I'm going to buy a risk assessment training package from the shelf, just buy it off the shelf and hope it fits for purpose, they've actually said, well, we know that you understand risk, social care solutions. Can you build it for us? So we built it in partnership with them the whole way. So it's something that, we see staff members go into this training not probably sure how to handle and manage risk. And it's everything we do. You need to be able to do that in child protection. You need to sit with risk. You need to be able to understand, when do I need to do something about that? When do I elevate that? When do I respond? And who do I go to? Helping people do that. Staff members leave that training going, oh, I felt like that training was for me. Like I felt it was for my role, and it had my forms and my policies and procedures in it. And it just felt like you were talking to me. And we're like, well, we were. We were talking. And that's powerful, because they're finding that staff are more confident in their jobs. They are finding their staff are staying in their jobs longer, because obviously, we have a high turnover of staff in child protection because it's really intense work. That's simple. It's very, very intense work. And this particular project that we've done with them actually has a supervisory arm to it. So staff don't just go do the training and then go back to their jobs. They do the training and then they go back and have supervision with their line managers, who also use the same tools from the training. So they're having conversations about, do you remember when you learnt in the training about blah, 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 blah? Let's talk about that now. And how is that affecting that case? And how is it affecting your workload? So it's a really powerful project, because then we're seeing staff stay and staff do better at their jobs. And then line managers actually supervise them even more, so that they're feeling more secure and supported. And ultimately that means clients are getting a better outcome. Children, young people and families are going to be getting better support. So that's the kind of stuff we're seeing, that from agencies are really willing to be creative and innovate and partner with us. And we're seeing great outcomes from those sorts of projects.
That's amazing. Just, I think, especially when you said that staff are staying. I mean, there's so many kids in need, and if people can't stay in their jobs because it's so frustrating, and maybe they're not
That's right.
feeling like they're making a difference, or they're just not getting supported, or whatever difference. If you are having those people stay, that's everything. How does that make
It's
you
really
feel?
powerful. It's goosebumps. It's goosebumps stuff because I think anyone that's worked in the child protection system knows that you take so much information with you when you leave. Like you try to use case notes and you try to use reports and you try to do transfers to new staff and say, this is the family I've been working with. This is what we've been doing with them. And this is what works really well. And this is what not to do. They don't like it when you turn up on a Tuesday because that's when this is happening or whatever it might be. But you don't put everything down. You just don't. You don't have enough time. So you take precious information with you every time you leave a job. And that's information that should stay. And if you stay in a position and you give, you get to, you feel comfortable and happy in that role, then you'll provide better consistency and stability to your clients, which is, obviously critical. We have so many families we work with that, foster carers that say the kids in our care have had 9 child safety officers in 12 months. That's horrific.
Oh my God, imagine as a child having to open up 9 times. Are they going to?
Yeah.
That
And they go,
information that's, yeah.
exactly. They learn to go, that's probably not worthwhile. And I'm not for any moment bagging out on the department because I think they have a horrific role to have to play. And I know brilliant child protection workers that work well outside of their hours. They go above and beyond all the time. But I think the nature of the beast is, it's a very, very high trauma case. You're seeing child abuse day in, day out. We joke about it in that, like, we'll be sitting around a table with our partners and having dinner parties, and all of a sudden our partners will look at us and go, what are you talking about? And we realize we'll be talking about child protection cases, confidentially, of course, but we're sharing stories and talking about our lives and going, this is our work, this is what we do. But to everybody else, it's quite unreal and abnormal because we're talking about trauma day in and day out. So it's not a job that you can do lightly. And, I really have to take my hats off to my staff. I've got 60 beautiful, amazing, incredible practitioners around the country for social care solutions. And they sit with risk. They hold cases, a high caseload as well, and they do amazing work. But they also have brilliant supervisors. They have fantastic line managers. Our management team is incredible. So that they can do their jobs and leave it at the door and then go home and hug their kids and have a life outside of work.
If you could shout something from the rooftops that you want everyone to know to keep our children safer, what would that be?
Oh, goodness. I probably should have thought of a mantra before today. Hey, ultimately, collaboration and networking. We cannot do this in isolation. It takes a village. We cannot keep silo thinking and silo working. We can't just think one family needs just a one-size-fits-all model. Families are so intricate and different, and clients are also unique that we do need to partner better. And I think our funding models don't allow us always. It's very, competitive tendering means you have to fight for funding, right? So you don't tend to talk and share, but there's nothing against working in partnership. And when we collaborate and partner, our clients get better outcomes. It's that simple. So I think that's probably the one I would want to shout from the rooftops, that partnering and working in collaboration is the only way to work in the child protection system.
Well, that reminds me, like, I've heard from people who are in the parenting space that we think that having one or two parents, whatever the household is, and being able to cope and manage is normal, but it wasn't always that way, before the industrial era or whatever, that there was a village. And that theme's coming back, because even if it's not the village of your family and friends, and that even the support services need to work that way as well, by the sounds of it.
Oh, definitely, definitely. And, brilliant foster carers. I've worked with so many amazing ones over the years. I jokingly say, could you raise my children? Because you'll do a better job than I do. They're the ones that have found a way to work with family members and birth families who might have lots and lots of challenges and for whatever reason can't have their kids in their care, but they've worked out how to go, my children, the children in my care, get to have both. They get to have their birth family and they get to have us, and they get to have their aunts and uncles and their grandmas and their umas and grandpas, etc. And those people recognise the power of children having multiple safe people in their world. And that's exactly what agencies try to do, but should do more. Like I said, we're kind of restricted from because of funding models and those sorts of things. But when we do partner, amazing outcomes can really happen because we recognise that not all of us can provide for one family in the same kind of way. We all can kind of work in partnership together. So, and that, it's exactly what you said. It's that kind of parenting style is how we should be working as an industry.
I'm going to send you my song that I wrote. Okay, it's called I Can Use My Voice, and it's something I wrote about body safety because my friend Caroline Ellen teaches body safety, and it's to tell kids that they don't have to keep unsafe secrets because a lot of them are groomed and think they've got to carry some heavy burden. So I'm going to send that to you.
That would be amazing because I think there's research that was done just last year in Victoria, hearing children's voices, and it was reporting that children can tell 7 to 8 adults before an adult actually believes them and listens to them. And I think, and that's research. Actually, ACF has recently done that research as well, that children just believed. And we've got to realize that kids don't make stuff up like that. Kids don't have any joy or interest in saying, my uncle or my friend's mum or my neighbour down the road is harming me. They don't make that up for fun. And you need to be that person that hears them. The first person that they tell, you need to be the one that goes, I believe you, and I'm going to take this information and do something about it. So yeah, I'd love to hear the song. That sounds incredible.
I'd like to add to that what you're saying too. The other point is often it's just people listening to this might think, oh, but I'd hear, I'd understand. And it's often good people, good, well-meaning adults who are not paying attention, who are busy trying to run a household, who don't really hear what their kid is saying. It's not bad parents, it's good adults who miss it because they're so busy.
Genuinely, absolutely. I think like grooming is a really good point. We have a grooming masterclass at Social Care Solutions for this very reason, that we like to live with rose-colored glasses. We like to think that most people are good and won't harm children. And so they actually don't see grooming, because grooming can, in individual activities, can be, a gift or a hug or giving special attention and wanting one-on-one time with children. All of those things on their own are beautiful things. We want children to have those special moments with safe adults. When you add them up, and kids are starting to show you that they don't like that person, they don't want to go out with that person, they recoil from that person, or maybe they're even more excited because they're getting all this attention from that person. You've got to be really critically thinking and really listening to those children, and they'll tell you, not necessarily in their words, but in their behaviour, that something's not right. And trust your instincts. I think, as a social worker, we call it practice wisdom. But it means your gut instinct. We're taught probably from a very early age, especially in Western culture, to not listen to our instincts anymore. But we have to. And I think if you're a parent or someone that's caring for a child, listen to them in every way. Look at their behaviour. Listen to what they've got to say. Listen when they're not saying anything, and support them if they do come to you and say that something's not quite right, because you could be that person. You could be one of those people that says, okay, well, I'm here and I'm listening now, and we'll do something about it and we'll keep you safe together. It's really powerful to be that safe adult for a child.
Thank you. And that's why also that it's so important to use the right words, isn't it? To use, penis, vagina, vulva.
Absolutely.
And people think, oh, why are they banging on about this political correct stuff? It's because when children go to tell, they use the wrong words and people might miss it. Or they tell someone in the legal profession, in a court of law, and that can't be used as evidence. Like, it's so important. Use the right words.
Absolutely, every time.
So if anyone wants to find you, how would they find you?
So you can come to find us at socialcaresolutions.com.au, or you can find me at thetribeproject.com.au. And we're on Instagram and Facebook and all those sorts of things as well. And obviously, come read our book, because I have got a link in the book. So
of course, everyone read the book.
Come read the book, because my email, my website's in there as well. And yeah, jump online and have a look at some of the training modules and things like that.
So we'll have all those links in the show notes, as well as a link to how to get the book. So thank you so much, and thank you for the amazing work you're doing.
Thank you so much, Liv. It's been great chatting with you.